I'll say it over and over. College is one of the biggest scams if used wrong.
Yeah.
If you're using college, you're taking out debt to purchase a degree, and it doesn't make you more income than what you would have gotten if you didn't purchase the degree, then it's a huge scam. You just paid $50,000 for nothing.
Welcome to the Market Moment. My name is Matt Walters, and I'm here with the one and only Lee Mackey and the one and only Eli Freeman. So before we begin today, I want to put out a quick disclosure. So we're going to be watching some videos and providing our feedback, commentary on kind of what we think. So it'll be fun. We've done this before in kind of different ways on TikTok. These are some YouTube videos. But before we jump into that, just want to put out a quick disclosure. So these fall under the realm of fair use. So we're commenting on these videos, adding our opinions and discussion, just strictly based on, educational purposes. So again, this is fair use, and the links to these videos are linked in the show notes. So lastly, as I always like to mention, if you like our videos, comment, like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, share them. We have a lot of fun doing these, and trying to kind of grow the base and the listenership. So we'd appreciate the help if you find them entertaining or useful. Mm-hmm. So, and if you don't, still give us a like.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess we're gonna jump into. I think we've got 5 or 6 videos that we're gonna jump into. So this first one is on 401ks. So let's take a watch and or a listen or both, and we'll see what we think.
These are the average 401k balances by age in the United States, and you can also see the corresponding contribution percentages. So someone in their 20s would have a 401k balance of $21,500, and their contribution rate is 11.3%. This includes the employer match. The contribution rate slowly rises through the decades, but if we just stick to the averages, most people by the time that they're in their 60s will not have enough money for a comfortable retirement. By the time you're 30, you should aim to have 1 times your salary saved by then. So that means if you make $60,000 a year at the age of 30, by then you should have a balance of $60,000. At age 35, that becomes 2x your salary, so you should have $120,000 saved, and so on. Now, if your salary goes up a lot, say at the age of 35, you start to make $100K per year, then your balance also needs to reflect that, so $200K in this case. As your salary increases, your savings goal should too. Comment below what you think and if you feel like you're on track or not.
Okay. So, initial thoughts.
I mean, I think that's a pretty good video.
Yeah.
That's a fairly educational, simple, easy to understand. The easier we can make finance, the more accessible.
And that's what I was going to say. At that point, you're looking for something that's just basic.
Like where should I be? Am I on track? Am I behind?
Yeah, and we tell young clients, or children of clients, just get started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just start doing something. As a general rule of thumb, perfect advice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's obviously, you can get into the weeds of like, well, each situation is different and it depends on when you're trying to retire and what retirement, and all that's true. But if you're just wanting the simplest kind of recommendations or advice on how do I get started, what should I be doing, where should I be, advice like that, or somewhere kind of in that, range, I think is
what
great.
at age 30,
Your
1x.
1x your salary, age 35, 2x.
1.5. I thought it was 1.5. Was it?
Because if you have 1 times your salary at age 30 and it doubles every 10 years, 30, 40.
It'll triple.
Man, that math is
It'll
hard.
double 3 times.
There you go.
Yeah.
So and with contributions, that would be a much larger balance than the averages that he showed.
The good rules of thumb are start as early as possible, even if it's $100 a month. I mean, just the practice and the routine of starting. When you get pay increases, automatically, try to increase your contributions because you're not used to getting that income. So don't let yourself adjust your lifestyle before you adjust your savings.
And most 401k plans now have that automatic feature of annually, I'm going to increase by 1%. You can fill in, but that way you don't see it. You don't have to think about going back in and doing anything. Literally, once a year, your contribution level is going to ratchet up by at least 1%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, good video.
I call it approved. Good job.
Yes, stamp of approval.
All right. Okay, so this one will be good. This is how to get rich quick.
I'm all over it.
Yep.
Son, you will marry the girl that I choose. What? No, you have horrible taste in women. Look at Mom. What if it's Jeff Bezos' daughter? Oh, now I could do that. Mr. Jeff Bezos, let my son marry your daughter. I would never agree to that. But my son is the CEO of the World Bank. Ooh, then maybe we can make something work. Hello. Do yourselves a favor and make my son the CEO of World Bank. No. Really? No? But my son is Jeff Bezos' son-in-law. Oh, then when can he start?
Okay, other than the fact that the guy's wearing a Duke shirt, I won't hold that against him. But that was pretty funny.
It was good.
That was great.
He, nothing.
If that's your plan, good luck. Might want to go back to video number 1 and start contributing a little more to the 401k.
Yeah,
but
that's definitely going for it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's
I
pretty
mean,
funny.
somebody out there will probably hit the jackpot.
That's great.
But,
Yeah,
don't.
nothing like a little prearranged marriage for the.
That's right.
The
I like
legacy
it.
that you're trying to create.
Exactly. Anybody got Jeff Bezos' number?
The only part of that actually is true is your spouse matters a lot.
Yeah.
For your finances.
The funniest part, I think, was he's
does.
like, "You have a terrible taste in women. Look at Mom."
That was good.
I forgot about that.
Oh, goodness.
It's like, hopefully, my mom's not watching this video.
Yes. Yeah. So, not sure we approve that message, but there's some
entertaining nonetheless.
throwing in some humor there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. No idea what this one is. It says 1995 numbers.
All right. Let's take a look.
Yep.
In 1995, my dad was the manager of a flooring store. His yearly salary, he could afford a yearly vacation for my mom to stay home with my brother and I, 2 kids and 2 cars, and a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house with a whole unfinished basement. His salary was $40,000.
Okay, so she's obviously comparing 95 to what that looks like today for somebody. I mean, I think there's some truth to that in some ways. Obviously, there's a ton of details and things that we don't know, and but I think there's just a lot of factors that go into that. Like where you live, your lifestyle. Are you coming out of it with, do you have student loans? Did they have student loan? I mean, there's just a lot of factors that go into like how realistic is it to live off of one income today versus 95. But I think we can say that, like, especially with inflation where it's at, mortgage rates where they're at, home prices having gone up, it's probably a lot harder today than it was in 95.
I think back, Eli, were you born in 95? I'm sorry. I was just sitting there thinking I was about to compare. But when I was growing up.
In the 60s?
In the 60s. Okay, I deserve that. What my parents made, my dad, was a professor at a university, and my mom worked for the university. Very modest means, but we lived in a 4-bedroom ranch house and 2 cars, and kids had cars at times. And I think now, how did they do it?
Yeah.
And so I can kind of relate to the young lady there. There's no way they could do it now, or at least, are we spending more? I mean, yes, inflation's there, but I mean, things are really, really different. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's good, bad, maybe a little bit of both. We didn't spend frivolously. I don't know. I mean, it's very different. There's a lot of
things. We talked about this the other day. We got some pushback on this in the comments, but I think the baseline expectations of what is necessary and needed today is different than it was in 95. 95, you didn't have cell phone payments, right? I mean, most people are spending $200, $300, $400 a month on their cell phone bill. You didn't have that in 95. You didn't have a Netflix subscription.
Well, as we say, in $300 or $400 in various streaming service subscriptions and
because I was the same. I mean, I grew up. There were 4 of us kids. My mom stayed at home. She worked kind of part-time teaching piano lessons from the house, but it was basically my dad's income for a good part of our childhood. And we were able to scrape by and make it work. But I also know I have, there's single income people that I know today, friends that I have that are making it work too. It looks different, but I think some of it is there was a simplicity to life back then that doesn't exist today.
Correct.
Yeah, there's an adjustment for need that's taken place, and that's due in part to really good marketing. I mean, all of the firms that push products and push services that have worked really well to get us to pay monthly makes it really hard to have margin, especially on a single income.
Yeah. So I think we can wrap up by saying that video, there's absolutely some truth to it. Sure. And there's, we kind of feel for that, the people that are having to make those tough choices and are in that situation. Mm-hmm. But there's also a reality that there are a lot of expenses that we consider necessities today that didn't exist in the mid-90s.
100%.
So,
yep.
All right.
What's next?
Are student loans a good idea?
Oh.
Big money mistake of your 20s, number one, taking out student loans. You see, our teachers, parents, and guidance counselors thought they were giving us good advice when they said that taking out student loans would be worth it. And we believed them. And here we are. More than 45 million Americans have student loan debt, keeping them from moving forward with their lives and doing big things like buying a home, starting a family, switching jobs, moving across the country, or joining a pickleball league. And that's because the average student graduates with $38,000 in student loan debt, making the average monthly payment close to $400. And there's just not that much margin for having kids or smacking pickles when you've got that kind of debt hanging over your head. And I know what you're thinking. But George, that debt won't be around long. College will land me a good job eventually, and I'll make so much money, it'll be paid off in no time. Well, I hate to break it to you, but that 38 grand probably won't go anywhere fast, because a lot of 20-somethings are regretfully engaged in mistake number 2, just making the minimum payments on debt.
Eli, initial thoughts?
So that's George. I really like George. He's a part of the Ramsey Solutions team.
Yeah.
But he has a little bit more of the kind of new style
of
Ramsey Solutions.
He's a little more hip, yeah.
I mean, it's perfectly fair. I'll say it over and over. College is one of the biggest scams if used wrong.
Yeah.
If you're using college, you're taking out debt to purchase a degree, and it doesn't make you more income than what you would have gotten if you didn't purchase the degree, then it's a huge scam. You just paid 50 grand for nothing.
Yeah.
And if you're taking out student loans for that, it's a massive scam.
You have to look at higher education as an investment,
mm-hmm.
right? And so some people don't want to hear it, some people don't want to accept it, but it's the reality of it. If your goal is to become, a social worker or a teacher, or all amazing jobs, and we need really good, highly qualified people in those positions, but you also know, you just know it's a matter of fact that your income is not exponential, it's not limitless, right?
The harder you work, it's not the money you make.
Exactly.
Correct.
And so you do have to look at it of okay, if I know I'm going to come out and make $50,000 a year, and that's going to be pretty constant minus some modest cost of living adjustments moving forward, what kind of investment can I afford to make to go get that job? And it probably needs to come in the form of, the lowest cost, quickest possible route to get there. And it is different for someone, I think, that, is going to be an orthopedic surgeon, not that you don't want to still limit maybe the student loans that you have to take out, but you're making an investment and saying, okay, I might come out of school making $300,000 or $400,000 a year. And so I just think you have to know it's an investment. And like any investment, you want a return on that investment. And so
there are a few cases where more prestigious schools actually give you that return on investment too. Mm. Community colleges, state colleges are significantly cheaper than private schools. And for 85% of the degrees, you're getting the same jobs.
Yeah.
From graduating from a state school versus a private school.
I've always, why it was so, I was blessed to go play ball at Harding and a great school, but if I hadn't been able to do that and get a scholarship for that, my parents weren't in a position to help me, so I absolutely would have been in the community college for the first 2 or 3 years, if trying to get all my prereqs until I figured it out. And I think for a lot of people, that is the path that makes the most sense. While you're trying to figure out and you're just getting the courses, checking the boxes that you have to check, go do it in the most affordable way possible, whether it's online or at NWAC. And then if you want to graduate from a certain place, then you can make that decision later in those years. So
No, I mean, anything like that, it's a broad, comment. I mean, it's a very generalized comment. I think there are exceptions.
Well,
but
not to put on you, but you're kind of an exception, right? I mean, you were someone who, yeah, I mean that.
I've been called worse.
No, but I mean, you're someone who you had big aspirations, and you're like, I'm going to go to law school. So you went and graduated from SMU Law School. I would not say that was a bad investment on your part, right?
Correct. There were cheaper options.
Sure.
But yeah, so I think that as a general rule, what he said is 100% accurate. And Eli, I know you agree with that. It's tough, and you're having to make that decision kind of in the moment. I think we've all graduated and we can and we're in this industry and we can kind of look back and make a somewhat objective business-like decision. So I don't know. It's tough. I mean, student loan debt obviously is kind of the big, 800-pound gorilla out there right now. And,
there has to be changes,
It does, and I think at some point that system may melt down. I don't know when that occurs, but it's it's kind of a house of cards right now, and the government continues to forgive $1 trillion here and $1 trillion there. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, but as a general rule, I like your comment. It is an investment, and you need to be smart about that investment. And if the return on that is not there, there's plenty of other opportunities that exist, in a much more affordable way.
Well, the status quo, like 30 years ago, college was way more affordable, right? So go to University of Arkansas, it was much more affordable to do so. And so it was more of the expectation,
sure,
right? That you just go to the state university or go, have a good time, get a good education, and it doesn't cost you a fortune. Well, that has remained somewhat, and I'm generalizing here, but that's kind of remained somewhat of the expectation, while the cost of it has went up, 20, 30, 40 fold. So it's like maybe it's time to, if the cost isn't going to change, we have to change the expectation of, what everyone can do.
And I think that's it. I think there's a lot of debt problems, but I think a lot of it resides at the universities. Over the last 10 years when inflation was averaging 2, 3, the average college tuition was going up 5 to 10. And that was not sustainable. I mean, it's just not.
Yeah. All right. Next. So what 20-year-old can afford to do this?
Here are 3 ways that you can invest aggressively in your 20s while still maintaining part of your lifestyle. The first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get to $50,000 saved in your savings account. This is so important. I don't want you to have consumer debt or credit card debt. I want you to have a clean $50,000 that you can look at every single day in your checking account. The next $50,000 that you're going to get saved up is going to actually go into the market. So this is the money that's going to be invested into very conservative stocks, S&P 500, index funds, but this is going to be money that you're having growing in the market outside of your savings account that can earn you an actual return. And the third bucket is going to be acquiring assets. Now, I prefer that you start focusing on acquiring short-term rentals, because if you're in a W-2 job or if you're self-employed and you're trying to build wealth, you're going to need to avoid your taxes. And that means that you're going to need to have at least $50,000 to $100,000 in a down payment in order to acquire assets. This is called the SMA strategy, and it's 3 ways in which you can invest your money strategically.
All right. Lee, thoughts?
In your 20s?
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with what he said.
No, not at all.
He's hitting a target audience that is not going to be most people in their 20s.
And I would agree. 50,000 is a lot in a savings account. I would probably disagree with him on that, unless the 20-year-old or the 20-something is making,
I mean, if your monthly expenses are $10,000 a month,
sure,
then
yes.
that probably needs to be your emergency
Yeah.
fund.
He may be trying to take into account an emergency fund for step 3, where you have an emergency fund for your Airbnbs on top of.
I mean, most people, I think I know I say like 3 to 6 months, depending on kind of what you do for a living, job security.
Yeah.
So especially as you're getting started, Dave Ramsey says before you start tackling debt, just set aside $1,000 and then start paying down debt. 50,000 seems a little excessive, that early. Obviously, like you said, depending on the situation and income and expenses.
And I mean that is a lot of liquidity to have in your 20s. I mean, we're looking there at least 150 to 200,000 of just
Well, and another thing, unless you're a real estate professional or someone who is like really in that and wants to build a career in that, I would say, having your emergency fund and then $50,000 invested, not everyone needs to then jump to buying real estate assets, right? Because there's a lot of, commitment, time, risk, just like there is with the $50,000 you might have invested. But not everyone is built or wired or wants to be a landlord. And so to say that just as kind of broad advice for everybody, that's where I'd push back on that.
And I would probably say that's pretty good advice for the 30 to 40 something crowd, a little bit more. But I mean, like you said, wasn't bad advice, but maybe a little premature for the
generally good advice.
Yeah. I mean, nothing wrong with it. So, okay. Last video, doom and gloom. Do you agree with this guy?
$1 million 1993 today is now $2,070,000. Inflation in 5 years will probably devalue half of everyone's money listening to this in their 401ks, IRAs, and their soft saving accounts. Like right now, the world is a wreck, and their only solution to the devaluation is they're gonna have to work harder. Over the last 20 years, 2002 to 2022, salaries have increased 27%, but the cost of a home has gone up 148%. In other words, like our cost of living and lifestyles is not keeping up. Average person drives a $60,000 a year car that has a $50,000 a year salary with over $100,000 of student debt, 60% of America living check to check. We have a problem. And being busy is not the solution, and getting another job is not the solution. You have to graduate and develop more of the Gen Z millennial mind that says there's got to be a smarter way. It can't be the immigrant way of just work harder, because there is something to say for hard work. But if it's not smart enough hard work, then it's stupid work. It's dumb work. And
he's pretty passionate about his opinion.
Yeah.
I've also watched a video of him saying 401ks are a scam, cash it out, pay the penalties, and that's the cost to buy real estate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Matt, you want to take this one?
Well, I'd start. I don't know if we'd hang out on the weekend.
No.
Like me and him. But, this gets into, it's easy to get in front of a camera and say things that are scary or that might hit home with certain people and make it a very watchable video. It doesn't mean it's accurate. You're right, and it's applicable for most people.
And I think his facts are probably fairly accurate.
I don't think $2 million is going to be spending power is going to be cut in half in 5 years.
Right. Yeah.
If it is, then we've all got bigger issues.
There's always the doom and gloomers. There's always the sky's falling crowd, and if you say it enough, eventually you'll catch luck and it'll be right. But I didn't take him as much as doom and gloom as much as he just had an opinion on the working smarter versus working more. I think there is some truth to that. Yeah. Technology is forcing us to do that. So from that respect, sure, I think that we all, I don't think it matters what career you're in. You're being forced to work smarter, not just longer hours and harder. So, but the gloom and doom of, the world's a wreck. There's aspects of the world that are kind of in a mess, but, I'm not burying my money in a backyard and cashing out 401ks. But
the part that he said that I fully agree with is increasing your human capital, getting better at a job, getting smarter to increase your income.
Sure. Yeah.
If that was the whole video, by all means, stamp of approval.
Correct.
Approvals on that. But he made a comment of $1 million to $2 million. A 401k is not going to catch up. Well, over that 20-year period, if you had invested it, it wouldn't be $2 million.
Correct.
It would be significantly higher than that. The reason people use 401ks, IRAs, is because they beat inflation.
Yeah.
Because your real returns are higher than inflation.
Yeah.
So to say something like your 401k is not going to keep up with inflation, well, that would be true if your 401k sat in cash.
Right.
Right.
The whole reason we have them is because they do beat inflation. That's why we use them.
Yeah. I agree. And I do think I think people should. There are choices you have to make in life. Do you want to go do what's necessary and be smarter about how can I increase my income and do so that you have more savings and more spending power and more, or do you not, right? And if you don't, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but we need to stop making the comparisons for those people on saying, hey, they can't go do these things because, times are different. And you do need to go look at how you can make more money, and things are more expensive. And so it's anytime you try to throw everyone into the same bucket, it's just not fair, right? And that's what's hard about like watching these videos and commenting on them, is a lot of these people are kind of making these broad statements and applying it to everybody, and that's just not how the world works.
And they kind of have to. I mean, they're attracting viewers.
Yeah.
So it's not a one size fits all. That was a great point.
I mean, I think after the watching these videos, I think one thing I take away is that everybody's situation is just so different, and that's why it's good to have your accountability partners, whether it's your spouse, whether it's a financial advisor that you go and work with, or whoever it is, someone that's holding you accountable, helping you think about the big picture, where you're at, where you're trying to go, how you need to go about getting there, because it truly is different for everybody. There are some general rules of thumb that are good kind of practice, but to just for everyone to fall into the same bucket and do the exact same things the same way, I think is simplifying things a little too much.
And I think in our world, the clients that we see, I'll tell people that you could line up, 10 people, all 40 years old, all making the same amount of money, but they're still different.
Yeah.
And their investments and their planning should reflect that. It isn't a one size fits all. This worked for Tom, so it's going to work for Susan.
And how many people do we see? A lot of times you in these videos or this kind of commentary, you see, like you need this many millions of dollars to, live. And like how many people do we see that come in that have far less than that, and we're able to help them retire comfortably and do everything they want to do, and oftentimes still leave money to the next generation. And so
and they're just as happy as the people who have millions,
if not more.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So don't let those kinds of things scare you, thinking of like, oh, we've got to get to this crazy number this person said just to have a comfortable lifestyle and make an impact, because you probably don't, depending on what your goals are.
And I guess if you comment or want to make a comment on our YouTube channel, if you found a TikTok video or another video you like that you want us to comment on, attach it to a comment. We'll take a look at it. And
we'll give you our feedback.
We'll give you our feedback. So
for whatever it's worth.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So today we're going to, because we didn't have any good comments. I say good comment. We didn't have any comments from last video. We've had a lot of good comments over the last few weeks, but none from last week. So we're going to end with a joke, and I'm actually going to put Eli on the spot. He said a good joke. Oh, I say good joke. It was not a good joke, but he said a joke before we got on here, and it's better than the one Zoe put in front of me that I don't want to read.
Well, gosh, Matt, this comes from youth group last week. So
he's going to blame teenagers.
Yeah, blame it on ninth graders.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
let's hear it.
Last week was Valentine's week, and so in honor of Valentine's week, what is Cupid's favorite band?
I can't comment. I already heard it.
I don't know.
Kiss.
That was awful.
I wish I wasn't laughing. It was kind of funny.
I mean, it was like that 5-second pause of like,
I didn't
okay.
get it either, actually.
Thanks.
Yeah, very timely.
Yeah, that's good 14-year-old humor.
Good ninth grade humor.
There you go.
Well, we appreciate you guys watching and listening. Give us a like, subscribe. We'll see you guys next week.